Hi Virgo, it's Jen here from tarotspirit.net. I'm here for your June 2016 monthly tarot reading. Thank you for joining me. Um, I had some technical difficulties, so I've actually already laid out the cards. I've only seen the focus card and the bottom of the deck. Today I'm using my Arthurian Legend Tarot, and let's get started. So, energies for the month of June for Virgo. So the focus card we have is the Hierophant, and this is a card about um, how we receive messages, where our inspiration comes from. And you could have the energy of this spiritual leader, or you could be seeking the energy of this spiritual leader. And another thing I like to point out with this card is that it isn't always like a person that you go to or wisdom that you solicit um, that you gain. That's how you gain that sort of wisdom. It often can come about in many different ways. For example, um, you could just be standing in a grocery store and someone will say something, next to you, and it will just sort of, for some reason, click, and you'll just have this experience where sort of things click into place, and you see things in a completely different light. So, um, this isn't strictly a authority figure in like a religion at all. It's a much broader card than that. So maybe really starting to develop your spirituality. Maybe you'll find a teacher or find a book or something will inspire you, or you'll really gain some deep, deep insight and wisdom from a situation. And at the bottom of the deck, you have the Six of Wands, which is known as the victory card. So something that you're passionate about is you're being successful. And, you have to think about, what is victory? How do you measure success? So this could just be something, I'll use myself as an example. I just, even though I finished in December, there was a mix-up, so I didn't actually get my diploma until today. I went and picked it up today, and I shared it with my son. And it's not like I'm not going to put it on Facebook. I'm not, you know what I mean? It's just like, it was a victory for me. My undergrad career was pretty bad, and I barely graduated, and I just graduated with a graduate certificate with straight A's. So that's my own, and now I'm telling you guys, please, I'm not saying that so you guys will leave comments. It's just like, for me, it was a true inner victory that I could be successful um, in college, because I did really well in high school, and college, for many different reasons, including a health issue, was really bad for me. And it was like, here I am 25 years later, and I conquered that. I was victorious. I kicked college's ass. So it's that kind of thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be accolades from outside. It can be from within. And I think this card is always a nice reminder to count your wins, no matter how big or small. And just because it may be like, yeah, who doesn't, it's just a certificate, it's not a master's, blah, blah, blah. Sure, there's always people who will do more and better and greater, but for me, it was a big deal. And so whatever is meaningful to you, make sure that you don't diminish that with outside influences. You be proud and claim those victories. So I'm doing 4 sets of cards, 4 sets of pairs of cards. Did I say that right? So these first 2 cards are going to be career. The Knight of Swords, so a change in thinking, a change in communication. Oh, and the Empress. Well, that's a pretty nice card. It's an interesting card to get in the work category, because it's a very fruitful. Well, it's actually, now that I'm saying fruitful, um, but it's more of a nurturing card, and oftentimes, like if you think about in business is very sort of planning and implementing. So it's sort of forcing or making things happen, where the Empress's energy is more nurturing, and it's it sort of guides and encourages instead of says, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, this needs to be done better, whatever. She just sort of sees where people's strengths lie and encourages it and is there for support. And it's a very good strategy for her. So it's kind of interesting, as I'm talking through the card, I'm thinking maybe in career, maybe there are some people around you that need more of this type of energy if you're a leader or even just a coworker. And you may find that you get a lot more work out of them if you try approaching them in the way the Empress would. And that might take a change in thinking, because just like I was just saying, in the workplace, it's usually much more methodical and just the facts and data driven, and just very sort of performance driven. And maybe you can get better performance out of people if you change your thinking by nurturing and being a little more supportive. That might be a nice energy to bring into your business life, and see how that works. It might be just with certain people. I know that's happened with some of the people I've worked for. No matter how professional and and stuff I've asked for stuff, asked, just it's like their job, and I needed to go through them, I would get resistance. And I learned to really sort of just try another approach and be super friendly and super, kind of go over the top, but now they'll really help me out, and they don't. So maybe I was coming across harsher than I realized. I mean, you never know what people's experiences are and how they perceive you and perceive things. So maybe try to mix it up a little in the workplace this month. So these next two cards are home life, sort of outside of work life. Nine of Swords. So there's a little bit of worry or insomnia for some reason. But then you have the Sun card. Interesting. So the swords are mental energy. And I know for me, it's amazing how like one little comment, one little thing can happen. And it can have me up all night worrying and, be all consuming and become completely blown out of proportion. And at the time, it seemed like a really super big deal, but in the grand scheme of things, it was just so minor and is so um, insignificant in the grand scheme of things, and even in the small scheme of things. One exercise that I use that was actually really helpful for me is that something would happen, and I would get really worried about it, and I'd write it down, and I would try to compartmentalize it even, and just try to let it go as much as I could. But at first, though, I think I would just write down what happened, like you put it in Outlook, or if you still have like a paper-based calendar or something. And what I would do is I would go back like a month later, or even a week later, and I would read through these things that have happened that set me off. And half the time, like I wouldn't even, it had been long forgotten. And it's like, is this going to matter in a week, in a month, in a year? And as upsetting as it may seem at the time, when you really start doing those exercises and challenging the validity of the reaction that you're having to the situation, it often doesn't hold up. And so it allowed me to release things and situations and worries that, because I knew, okay, you're being ridiculous. This really doesn't matter. And I've proved it doesn't matter because you forgot that even happened. You know what I'm saying? And then we have the Sun. So there's going to be, an aha moment, a clarity,